Torsten Bell, the new Labour MP for Swansea West in Wales. Torsten is the chief exec of the Resolution Foundation, a think tank that aims to improve living standards for people on low and medium incomes, and was formerly head of policy for Ed Miliband. It's quite the resume. How are you feeling? Congratulations, by the way.
My dominant feelings are obviously tired due to the no sleep phenomenon that everyone has been going through. And then very lucky indeed to, be embarking on a new stage of life and, in a lovely place in the country.
This is a big shift to you, right? Because you have worked in policy for many years, in government for the Labour Party and at a think tank. And now you've shifted into a job with, let's say, different responsibilities. What was the driving motivation to become an MP?
That is a good question. I mean, mainly I've spent the last 9 years, as you kindly said, running the Resolution Foundation, a think tank. And I'm not saying the only thing there we do is to draw charts, but we do draw a lot of charts. And a lot of them, if I'm honest, are a bit grim, right? They're about things that haven't been going very well in Britain, whether it's charts of wages not growing, or it's charts of food bank queues going up, or it's charts of NHS waiting lists. So at some stage, you have to say, right, that's enough drawing of the charts. What are we going to do to try and change them?
One of the concerns that a lot of people have is about the living standards for people on low and middle incomes. That's been a huge part of your remit at the Resolution Foundation. With something like the 2-child benefit cap, you in April wrote it has to go. And we know that it would lift 500,000 children out of poverty. Are you going to continue making the case for scrapping it now that you're in government?
Well, let's just do the big picture first. The government that has just been evicted from office has the worst record of any of our lifetimes on the economy. Wages stuck at the same level they were back when, as you said, I was working in the Treasury in 2008. So I think a lot of what this election is about, and a lot of what the big question facing Britain is about living standards. It's about how do we get living standards up, particularly for lower income workers. And that's about making sure we are growing the economy and wages are going up. And that's what I've just written a book about how do we make sure that we have got an economy where wages are growing and inequality is coming down. Now, specifically on the question you're asking on the 2-child limit. So just to remind everyone who doesn't spend their lives either in politics or in policy world, this is the decision taken by the Conservatives that if you have a third child born after 2017, then you don't receive any additional benefits for those children. So the reason this gets a lot of discussion is the reason you pointed out just then, which is the rise in child poverty that we've seen in recent years is driven by a rise in poverty amongst larger families. And by larger families, we mean people with 3 or more kids. Now, one of the reasons for that is the 2-child limit. So now, the policy is one that everybody in the Labour movement, all Labour MPs, everyone thinks shouldn't be there. And like with lots of things that the Conservative Party have done, we would like to see it go. But, you've been hearing Keir Starmer all through this campaign, and he's saying, look where the country is. People are fed up with politicians promising things that they can't deliver. And so this is one where, yes, we'd all like to see it go, like we would with lots of things. I mean, more money for the NHS. I'm sure you'd all like to see that. More money for schools and hospitals. Those will all have to be things that we show how we can pay for, because people aren't going to believe us if we just say, yes, definitely that thing as well.
Can I ask you, what is the feeling within the Labour movement about tax? Because obviously tax has been the one thing the Conservatives have been trying to criticise the Labour Party on. They're saying, inevitably they are going to raise taxes. Just so you know, on this show, we think tax is cool. So we don't mind the idea of there being tax raises. What's the feeling?
Are you two lobbying for a presenter's tax?
My non-dom status is my own business, Torsten, okay? Just to clarify, that is a joke. I'm very much dommed, although I have to feel that there was a better way of phrasing it than
That's
that.
what everybody with a trust fund would say.
I on several occasions in the BBC coverage that I was watching last night, Conservatives raised the spectre of more tax, and they were held to task by the presenters a couple of times of saying, well, there seems to be this discrepancy. Do you think that was a mistake in the Conservative campaign, this kind of fear-mongering around tax rises, given that there is public support for increasing taxes on the richest people in society?
Well, I mean, there was a lot of mistakes in the campaign.
Yes, let's not confine it to one.
The rain, mistakes. D-Day, mistakes. Calling an election when you're 20 points behind in the poll, mistakes. So we haven't got a lack of mistakes to have a chat about. I think on the monomania, on thinking you can hang a whole campaign on don't vote for the other guys, they might increase your taxes.
But taxes are good. We're talking about it again like it's a negative. Taxes are good. I'm just curious. Is there just a change in the feeling?
No, to be a bit careful, because people have had a really tough time, right? Food prices are up by 30% over the last 2 years. As I said, taxes are up significantly. Energy bills are significantly higher than we were all used to. And that comes on the back of, as I said to you before, wages not growing for the last year. So taxes are good in the sense that we do all need to fund a civilized society, and they are a prerequisite to that. And if we talk about taxes as, just taking away from people out of spite or something, then we are doing a disservice because they're what allows us to have public services that allow us to live in dignity. And all the rest, but there's another way of going the other way, which I sometimes hear from people, which is taxes in of itself a good thing.
Yeah.
And obviously, when people are feeling really hard up, you need to be careful about, because it really matters who is paying those taxes and what you're using the money for. And the public definitely think both those things, and they're right to. And I think sometimes there is a bit of a kind of, amongst kind of better off people, sometimes there's a bit of a dismissive, everyone should just be happy about. That's definitely wrong. We need to make sure people's living standards are rising. And so it does matter whose taxes go up. That's why if you look at what Rachel Reeves has focused on in the manifesto, it is tax rises to make sure, there's some upfront money into public services, whether it's into the police or it's into hospitals, extra appointments, or it's into our schools. But that is coming from carefully calibrated tax rises, VAT on private schools, closing some of the non-dom loopholes, oil and gas levies, because you shouldn't be gung-ho about tax rises on ordinary working people. As I say, when food prices are up by 30%. And by the way, food prices up by 30%, people definitely raise with me. I mean, they don't say 30%. Yeah. They say other expletive-filled sentences about going to the shop on Friday. I had that yesterday. A woman literally going into the polling station yesterday saying to me, clearly worried about that Friday shop.
Oh, goodness me.
I'm aware that you've been up all night, and this is maybe quite a heavy question to hang on somebody that's, I think, drinking a much-needed coffee by the looks of things.
First and only coffee of the day.
Wow.
Respect, man. I'm at number 4, and I got some sleep last night. We've seen a low turnout of this election. We know from available polling data that trust in our political system is an all-time low. What can be done by this incoming government to change that and help fix the trust deficit?
I think that is exactly the question you should be asking people like me and others, because I don't think it's too heavy. And if people don't want to talk about that, then because that is the situation we're facing. I mean, look, what's the lessons from last night's election results? Well, one, people want to change and they want a Labour government, and that's very clear. But also that one of the other outcomes of the scale of Tory failure of the last 14 years isn't just that people say, oh, look, things didn't get better. It's that lots of people have started saying they can't or they won't get better. And that does feed exactly the kind of dangers. That's why I think about it again in the book that has just come out. There I'm talking about, look, think about this economic failure. It's not like a nice to have that we start turning this around. And it's not just, we'd like to consume more stuff, although I think that's a completely legitimate desire for people to have. It's, if you don't turn this around, it takes you to a very dark place for your politics and your economics. And we shouldn't have a Reform Party on a significant share of the vote. And that's what happens if we don't start seeing material progress in people's lives. Because remember, we're not a kind of hierarchical society of the 19th century. We don't have widespread religion. So the things that bind us as together as a democracy and a society has been, for lots of the second half of the 20th century, the idea that together we get better off, that we're a healthy society, that we provide the public services people need, and that some of that better off also turns into our day-to-day living standards. And that has come to a halt. And it is not surprising that people are really pissed off and asking questions about whether, the system delivers for them. So then that's the first half. And you asked, what do we do about it? I definitely don't have all the answers to that, but I'll give you my partial answer to that question. You've got to start delivering on the bread and butter issues, which are jobs, housing, wages, security, potholes. And I know sometimes people laugh, right? About, they're talking about potholes again. Every street you walk down, every door you knock on, what's wrong with potholes? Well, one, it's really annoying, right?
Yeah.
You're driving around or cycling around or whatever you're doing. It's not just that. Potholes have become a symbol. Like, if we can't even do that, we can't even have roads. But every day you're reminded that we're not doing the basics. And so I think we should be talking about potholes. We should go on from that to talk about how do we start delivering what I would call bread and butter social democracy. But if you don't know the word social democracy, call it what you want. But better jobs, more housing, better quality housing, wages that grow, a public realm that we're proud of. That is how we start rebuilding trust in the areas that I know about. I'm sure there are lots of other areas. I'm not going to start giving a better popular culture. I don't know if you guys can sort that out. But on the stuff that I know about, that's what we need to do.
Listen, some of the potholes around me, you cycle into those, you're not coming out. They are craters. I'm sure you've been aware of the hype around you. People have been whispering, he's going to be the next Chancellor. One, how does that feel? And, it's quite I would be quite stressed by that. This expectation of me. How do you feel personally about those rumours? And also, are they true? Do you have big plans?
I'll tell you the secret to not getting stressed about them.
Okay.
It's knowing they're nonsense.
Okay.
Look, I'm going to be and I do think, this is a slightly trite point, but the country has just elected the first female chancellor. Right? I can remember doing interviews in my previous job, having to correct interviewers when they asked questions that were implicit that there would only ever be a male Chancellor of the Exchequer. Wow. And there is about to be a female Chancellor of the Exchequer, the first in 800 years, and a woman with an economics background. I don't think she needs any bloke who knows a bit of economics like I do to tell her what to do. She is going to be a bloody great Chancellor. And I'm going to be standing behind her, clapping everything she does and voting it through because, Rachel Reeves is a brilliant woman and she's going to be a great Chancellor. And that's the only Chancellor that this Labour government's going to need.
Thank you so much for joining us. Please go celebrate and for the love of God, get some sleep.
Thank you very much. Lovely to see you both.